Plumbers, in my last video, I overhauled a Suntour XCT fork, and I'll include a link to that video in the description, but I got a lot of requests from people to do a video with a Suntour XCM fork. So I looked around and I lucked out and I found this barely used Suntour XCM fork for 20 bucks. Great deal. Even though it really doesn't need to be overhauled at this point, that's okay. I can still go ahead, take it apart, clean it, lube it, and put it all back together and show you the whole process of doing that. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, since it's not hooked up to a bike, I don't have to worry about removing the brake. But if there was a brake caliper, I would go ahead and remove that. Get out of the way. So now the first thing I'm going to do to start taking it apart here is I'm going to remove these top caps. You're going to need a special tool here. These come from Suntour, and they've got these little splines here to fit onto the notches on these top caps. They come in two different sizes. The smaller size is typically for like hybrid type bikes with forks, and then the large size is for mountain bike type forks. You can find these on eBay, or you might be able to get them at your local bike shop. They're not that expensive, but you're going to use these to go ahead and just start unscrewing these. Don't try to use like vice grips or something, because you're just going to just tear these things to shreds. Get the tool. They're cheap. And when you got them both loose, then you go ahead and just push this up here like this and pull these off and get these out of the way. Now push these up the rest of the way here, and I pull these out, and they're actually different. The drive side here has sort of a little plastic rubber thing in there. It's a damper, and the non-drive side spring does not have one in there. So I want to go ahead and keep straight and put them back in the same tubes that they came out of. Okay, so now the next thing I want to do is remove these nuts down here so I can drop the lowers off. But I don't want to pull them all the way off quite yet. What I want to do is loosen them and bring them out a little bit. Because the bolts that are in here are going to be really, really tight. So what I need to do is push them up a little bit to loosen them. So what I can do is I can take my 10 millimeter socket here, fit this over the nut here, and there's a little ridge there. So, and then just take this and tap this up, and this will help push that bolt up inside there and break it loose. Then I go ahead and pull these nuts off of here just like this. So now that I have those nuts off, I have those bolts in there broken loose, I should be able to pull the lower off just like that. Sweet! And I noticed there's a little plastic part there, and so here's the other one for this side, just like that. So now at the bottom of each one of these little plungers here, there's just like a little plastic part here. They just kind of slide on like that. So now I want to push these plungers up and out of the uppers here. You can use like a dowel here, but I have this tool. I think it's used for like cleaning like shotguns. I picked it up at a garage sale, but it comes in handy for this because I can just push this right out like this and push these out just like that. And as far as I can tell, they're identical on both sides. Now the next thing we can do is remove these seals here, and they're just kind of pressed in. So what I can do is I can use a flat tip screwdriver to reach under there and just carefully pry them out like that. Now down inside the tubes here, there's a sleeve on each side, and to remove those, they just kind of snap in. Now it's really hard to see in the video here, but there's a little snap in the sleeve to the back side of the fork. So what you want to do is just use a screwdriver, kind of reach alongside the little snap and just push it to one side or the other, and then you can just slide the sleeve out. Here is like the little snap there, and it just locks into a little channel towards the little backside of the fork there. So that's all you have to do. Again, just reach in to that little snap there. Just push it to one side or the other. It doesn't really matter which side you push it to. And then you can just slide the sleeve right out, just like that. Okay, so here's the fork almost completely taken apart. I could have taken it apart a little bit farther. I could have pulled these little plastic ends off of there, pulled that little damper out of the spring, pulled the little plastic ends off of there, but it's not really necessary. I got it apart far enough to where I can go ahead and clean all the parts. So that's what I'm gonna do now. To clean them, I'm just gonna use like degreaser, I'm gonna use some hot water, dish soap, scrub brushes, and just clean off all the old dirt and grease off these parts, and then get ready to put it all back together. Okay, so I got the parts all cleaned up. Like I said, just use degreaser, soap, hot water, scrub brushes. To clean the inside of the tubes, I used a tube brush, just kind of pushed it down, scrub the inside of the tubes. You can also just use a rag, it'll all soapy, push it down and then push it back out, and that'll work. But anyway, so the parts are all cleaned up, so let's go ahead and get ready to start putting it back together. Okay, I'm going to start off by putting the stuff back into the lowers here. So that's the sleeves here. Now these are a wear part. So like if you find that your forks have like a little bit of movement, that they're loose in there, it could be that your sleeves are worn out. And so you can get replacements for these sleeves. The part number in these sleeve here is FEE 785, looks like 2H. So if you look online, you can find replacement sleeves for these. Before I put them in, I'm going to go ahead and coat them with grease. I'm going to grease everything up in this fork using Slickoleum light grease. Use a grease designed for forks so that it's going to be safe for your plastic and rubber parts and last and make your fork work good. So Slickoleum is good. It comes under the name Slick Honey, Judy Butter, SRAM Butter. A lot of it's like all the same kind of stuff, but use a grease designed for forks. So before I put these little sleeves in, I'm gonna go ahead and put some grease around the inside parts here where the fork tube is going to slide up and down inside there, and be sure, be aware of where this little this little tab thing is. So as I get grease all in there, then I'm going to slide this in, and this little tab is going to go to the back side of the fork because there's that little notch in there. So all I'm going to do is put this in, push it down, and it'll snap right into place just like that. And then do the other one as well. Just like that. And then next I have these seals here. I'm going to put grease around the insides of these seals like this. And these just press into place, just push them down. And now you can push them on mostly by hand, but what also you do is take like a flat blade screwdriver and carefully just push down around the outside edges like this. Be careful not to damage the seal. If you have a large enough socket, it's a pretty big socket, that would fit over around the outside edge of this, you can use that and tap it down with something, but it would need to be a pretty large socket. So anyway, those are all fully seated and ready to continue on to the next step. Next I want to drop these plungers down into the fork tubes, but before that I want to put some grease on them. So go ahead and put some grease around here. Nice healthy coating of grease. And on these little shafts here. And get these little top plastic parts as well. And then I can just drop these down here. And sometimes they won't come out, so you kind of have to kind of help guide them out a little bit. Like that. And then there were these little plastic parts here. They go on the bottom here. The little flange part here goes upwards. So I'll just slide this on into place and here as well. And I'm just going to put a little bit of grease around here. Probably not that important because I don't think it's really a moving part, but what the heck. Now the next step is to install the lowers. It's very important that you install the lowers in the correct orientation to the uppers. So you need to know which direction is front on the uppers. If the fork was mounted on a bike, it'd be very easy to see because you have the handlebars to orient you. But since this fork is not installed on a bike, I want to point out that these fork tubes here are offset forward of the steerer tube. So this is forward here. Now before I install the lowers, I want to put just a very thin coating of grease around the upper tubes here. It just needs to be very thin. Now I can install the lowers here. The fork bridge here is going to be towards the front. So I'll just very carefully slide these down inside the tubes there, pull these up and pull it all the way up just like that. Now before I put the nuts back on, I want to put a little bit of a Loctite blue on here, thread locker. And so I'll just put a drop on each side here, a little bit on there, and a little bit on here. And so that'll help keep the nuts from coming loose and falling off and having the fork fall apart while you're out there riding, and then you end up like injured and dead. Being dead's not fun. So now I can go ahead and thread these on by hand. And if you look at the nut here, the little nut part is going to be on the outside, and then you have like a little cone part is going to be facing in. So just going to screw these on. Then get the socket here, kind of tighten these on here like this. And get the wrench. Tighten these on. And they were pretty tight to begin with, so you want to make sure they're pretty tight. Don't strip them out, but get them pretty tight. Like that. Okay, getting close to being done. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and extend these down like that. And so now I want to get ready to put these springs in. I want to put like a nice thick coating of grease on these. There was a lot of grease on there to begin with, and so I want to kind of duplicate that amount on here. Get them on the plastic ends as well. Okay, so now that once I got the grease on there, fortunately on these things, the little end caps on each end are identical, so it doesn't matter which end goes up and down. Like some other different models, the caps are a little bit different, but on these are the same, so that's kind of cool. So I want to put the lone spring over on the non-drive side here. And the spring that has the little rubber damper in there is going to go over onto the drive side. And then while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and just wipe off a little bit of this excess grease on the upper here. Okay, so now I want to remount these adjuster caps here. So what I want to do is, they're already set to kind of have a lot of pre-tension on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to screw these up. This little part here will kind of draw back in there a little bit. It'll make it easier to install. So I'm going to do it on each side of this here. Like this. And then I can go ahead and kind of put this in here. And I'm going to have to push down and then carefully turn this clockwise to get it to thread in. I'm going to try to get them threaded in by hand first, and be careful not to cross thread these because they're plastic threads. You don't want to strip them out. So get this side here and get this side threading in. like this. Okay, cool. And so now I can use my Suntour tool that I used to remove them in the first place and start tightening them down. And I'll take this opportunity here. If you're not subscribed to my channel, do me a favor. Click that subscribe button and also click that little bell so then you get notified when I come out with new videos. So that would be really cool. Get this one tightened down and then get this one tightened down. And if you're liking this video, click that like button. Show me that you liked it. That'd be cool also. And got that tightened there. Okay, got it all back together. Test it out. It's moving nice and smoothly. And so that's how to overhaul one of these Suntour XCM forks. Let me know what you think down in the comments. And don't forget to like the video and be sure to subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.